Bob and I met earlier this year in May, actually at a golf course, funny enough. I was at Burke Lake Park doing some journaling and praying to God because I was going through a particularly rough time in my life at that point and was praying for clarity and direction, asking God to just reveal to me how He wanted me to spend my days and my time. And after some reflection by the water, I decided to go back home. When I was driving home, I heard a loud noise from my tire. I realized I had hit a pothole on the road and decided to pull into the nearest parking lot. And that parking lot happened to be the Burke Lake Golf Course. As I parked my car, I checked my tire, everything happened to be fine. Before I ended up going back into my car, I noticed these folks on the driving range just swinging their golf clubs and having a great time. I realized that that was something that I had always been interested and curious about, but never got to explore given I wasn't allowed to play sports growing up, since my dad was very traditional and believed that that wasn't something that girls did. So I had my little moment reflecting. I also thought about the fact that one of my favorite Korean dramas growing up, the woman in the drama was a pro golfer, and I thought she was so cool. And after reflecting and continuing to look out onto the driving range, I noticed a man walking towards me, and his car was parked near mine. I decided to ask him what the deal was at the golf course and how I could get involved, whether it was membership based or if I could just show up. And that man ended up being Bob, and that was the first time we had met that day.
It was my first day, and I was walking out to my car, and I saw Saherah walking toward me, and she asked if I knew anything about what was going on there and how to do it. And so I started telling her, well, you got to go up, you got to get a ticket for a bucket of balls, and then you got to go get. And as I was telling her, I was thinking, well, it would probably be easier just to walk up there and show her, because I had no plans, perfectly free in the afternoon. So, you know, I walked her up there, showed her where to get the balls, and then we went down. I showed her how to use the machine, and I asked her if she wanted to hit a bucket, and she said, well, are you going to stay? And I said, yeah, I'll stay. And then, you know, we went up to one of the stations on the range, and I told her, gave her all the knowledge I have about a golf swing, and that took, you know, 2 or 3 minutes. And she hit it. She was really good for the first time. I mean, she was hitting the balls, and after we finished hitting the bucket of balls, you know, we remarked, you know, she had no idea that earlier, you know, an hour earlier, that she would be doing this, and I had no idea. And I just said, you know, well, God knows what He's doing. And she said, yeah, He really does. And that got our conversation started.
One of the things that I was praying about while I was at Burke Lake that day was for more clarity around a church home. And
she was mentioned that she had been kind of looking for a church home, but hadn't found one yet. And I just mentioned that, you know, I've been coming here for 27 years, and obviously I like it. And so I told her about that, and we exchanged numbers in case she needed any more information about it. And but it just seemed like God had brought where she was at and where I was at, you know, like I felt like it was a divine appointment, that I hadn't done anything, but God had kind of been working in both of us.
I've always felt like my relationship with God was pretty private, and I never had a community to surround me in my walk with God. And after that prayer, it was just funny that I ended up at this golf course, and before I had left Bob that day, we had talked about new life briefly, and he invited me out, of course.
it did take a couple months, and when it first happened, I mean, as I was trying to help you, I wasn't evangelizing or everything, but it just seemed like God was in it, from the beginning, and but nothing had really happened. And I was telling a friend of mine, I hadn't seen in a couple months because he had surgery, but I was catching him up on some stuff, and I said, yeah, it was a pretty cool experience, but it was 2 months ago, and I said, I don't know what God's up to, but He knows, and if I just planted a seed, that's all, because I'm not gonna. It's got to be Him working.
I decided that I was going to take Bob up on his offer. One day God just spoke to me and said, hey, check out New Life. And that following Sunday, I ended up coming out, and it was a great sermon. I really enjoyed it. It spoke to me, and everything about the environment and the setup was different from what I had experienced at previous churches. I mean, walking in here, realizing that it was a gym was great. I noticed that was the first thing I noticed, and I really appreciated the fact that it didn't feel so stiff and rigid like many of the churches that I had been to. It felt very communal, inviting, warm, and I've been coming back ever since.
It's always good when you can see God at work, in experiencing God. It says, God's always at work, and you just watch where He's at work and join Him. And seeing Saherah and the steps that she's taken, the growth just in a few months, it's very encouraging. I think, did God need me to make this happen? Absolutely not. Not at all. But He used me, and I think He blessed me through our friendship and our. I think it's just been such a blessing to see how He has worked.
And I've been to many churches throughout my life, and since being at New Life, I've really gotten plugged in. It's the first time I've actually been comfortable enough at a church to serve and to be involved and to actually attend Bible studies with other women believers. So since we've met, it just really has made me feel like God has just been walking really closely alongside me. I don't feel so alone, although I know God has never left my side. I think I just haven't been in the right communities to help me see those things. And I've also just become stronger in my faith. My walk with God has been great. I've learned so much about what it means to be a believer and what it means to be a follower of Christ, and it's helped me really reevaluate the ways that I want to spend my energy and time on earth here. It's revealed to me that God has been trying to also get me to be on this path for a while, but I've always just felt like I knew best, and like I knew what the plan for my life was going to be, and that I could figure it out. And I think what these past 6 months have revealed to me is that no, God definitely is in control, and that's such a reassuring and comforting fact, actually. And also that I don't have to physically do this alone either. There is a community of people out here who are willing to walk alongside me and who are willing to stand by me.
It does encourage me to, be more bold. I'm not going to stand on a corner handing out flyers and things, but I think that one of the things is all I was trying to do was be kind, and I also love God. I love the church, and I'm willing to share. But this wasn't and evangelistic encounter. It was just being kind to a person, and that's what God used. So to me, it's, some people think of sharing like this as something that you have to know everything, or you have to, be loud, or you just be kind and be willing to share with someone else. Because I had no idea that this was going to be such an encouragement to her, and that this was going to be what she needed, what God wanted to provide for her in this time. But that's how it turned out. So it does, it wasn't scary, and it wasn't pushy, but God used it.